So, thanks to all the people that watched my first video on configuring Flight Simulator X. It was a big hit. But I got comments saying that they still had people that still had problems crashing. So I went and checked mine, and sure enough, mine started to crash. So it could have been because of a driver update or something, but I thought I'd go in here and see what I could do and see what I could find. Now, you might come up to the home screen here or one of the other screens, depending upon where you were last. But basically, you have to come in here and go to the settings screen. Come down here to customize, down at the bottom. And the main first thing, which is what I covered in the last video, is that you have to change this target frame rate from wherever it's at from default all the way back up out to unlimited. And there's a reason for that. If you look down here at the bottom in the description, when you hover over that, you see it says here it frees up computer resources. So in other words, if you're doing a couple things you want to have computer resources, I would just slap it all the way over to unlimited. Been very successful giving the system resources to the program. Clicked on OK to save it. I clicked on cancel because it's already done. And don't forget to quit Flight Simulator and reopen it to save that. The next thing we're going to talk about is this one here. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the video. And that's the new one about whether or not you bring up this interface in the beginning or not. So with that, we're going to go over here and we're going to go ahead and run some tests. Well, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change out the aircraft. And the reason for that is that the more complex the aircraft, the better. So what I'm doing here, let me take off variations and then we find out. I'm going to run the Airbus. I've had good success in getting this particular aircraft to crash the system. So we're going to go ahead and get that up there and say fly now. And during this time frame now, this is at 10:52 is when we started this. Just want to keep track of how long it's running. So I'm going to go ahead and do a couple things. I'm going to change the view here. I want to trim out the aircraft. Now I'm driving with my keyboard, not my joystick, so it's probably a little clunky here in my operation of the aircraft. Raise up the gear. So we're going to do some things to tax the system over here. We're going to use the menu bar up here. We're going to say, okay, let me bring up a new view of the cockpit. You hear the clicking of the overspeed warning there. We'll take care of that in a second. As a matter of fact, we're going to open up another window for that. We're going to come over here and open up a panel window. Okay. And then I'm going to hit my page down key to throttle back, and the aircraft will slow and eventually we'll be out of our overspeed condition here. Let me trim her out a little bit as well. So what I'm doing is creating, you notice that while the windows are updating as it's moving, I'm creating load on the system and on FSX to see how well. Now this is later on, this is 11 o'clock on the nose, so this is only 8 minutes or so into the flight. And again, I'm trying to create load on the system. Now this jerking you see in the flight, that's because of the screen capture program. It's skipping frames. It's not about the simulation. The simulation is perfectly smooth. So it runs flawlessly as far as the update of the screen. Now this is in windowed mode. There are more difficulties in the full screen mode, keeping it running without crashing. If you're a purist and you want to have that full screen mode, you're still going to have a few problems here and there. The less you interact with the menus, the better. The better you use keystrokes to change things, the better. So, because popping in and out of windowed mode is really one of the causes of the problem. So here we're flying along, everything seems to be doing just fine. So we're traveling along here. I'm going to load up a different aircraft. I like the little racer here. And because this Windows doesn't have a gear view and all that, the windows won't default it to the normal views. That's why we have 3 of the same windows up. But so we're going to go ahead and reconfigure this. I'm going to change the view of the aircraft a little bit and then change the windows. So let's go over here and do the spot view. Use my arrow keys and on my numeric pad to move that around. And then we'll close out some of these windows that don't exist for this aircraft. And do that, and do that. And instead of flying right up this guy's butt here, we're going to use the minus key to back on out a little bit and get some distance between us and the aircraft. And there we go. Okay, now that we got a good view and we can see what's going on, we can watch the rendering of things. We're going to go ahead and put the aircraft through some basic maneuvers to, again, tax the system, see if FSX survives it. So with that, we'll do some rolls here. Now you notice that the FXS has to take care of sun reflection off of the water, the moon, the cloud. These are all real objects, so it's not just a picture changing. There's a really demand going on. So the more demand, the more it has to compute, and the harder for it to keep up. So we want to try and get it to fail actually here. So let me go ahead and do another roll here, and let's do another one. We'll go ahead and pull up here, hopefully in time, because again we want a continuous flight here. And there it is. Microsoft Flight Simulator has stopped working. Exactly what you don't want to see. And this is a very simple aircraft, very simple simulation. So now we're going to talk about how to prevent that. So I'm going to go back into FSX again now that it's crashed and bring it up. And you notice it comes up to the same welcome screen as before. And as I mentioned, we're going to go to settings, okay? We're going to go over here, and we're going to turn off show opening screen. Again, it doesn't bring up this whole box interface. Before we run FSX, we're going to have to close it down so it saves, because if it crashes, it won't save your settings. So we go immediately, we go right back to the program and start it back up. And you'll notice it loads the default flight. Now I'm skipping some loading here, but it loads the default flight. Now we're at 11:05 a.m. That's when we're going to start this new flight. We're going to bring up the same aircraft. We're going to change the views around and do a few things to it. But now we went right to that. Now we're going to do the same thing we did before. I'm going to trim out the aircraft. I'm going to raise the gear. And I'm going to start taxing it with other things. Cockpit. By the way, this is not the only test I did. I did like 4 or 5 tests of this. Changed different configurations, did a few things. There's our overspeed warning. Go over here. Bring up the center console again. Bring her down here. Now, of course, this test isn't exact. I'd have to have a flight plan that matches mile per mile, and I'd have to follow a script that actually ran a test exactly the same. It's not quite the same, but it's proven across multiple tests that this seems to help, at least to my satisfaction. So we're going to be out of overspeed here pretty quickly. It's running quite nicely. My original plan, and I eventually I sort of did it, was let it to run for hours. This, in fact, this whole entire flight does run for 2 hours, even with switching out of other aircraft and things like that. It runs a very, very long time and never crashed. The program never crashed. You'll see later the aircraft crashed. So here we are flying along just fine. So I'm going to skip ahead a little bit into the flight. And then we're going to, well, you know what, first of all, we're going to just let it go here and watch the different updates go on. And I'm going to go ahead and bring up the main panel, trying to get it to do different things. Things we didn't do in the other one. Tax this software a little bit more. Let's bring up, let's bring up the clock. Let's bring up the overhead panel. Oh yeah, the radio panel, let's do that first. And let's do the overhead panel, there it is. There's the and by the way, if you hover over these, you'll see that they have functions. For those of you not familiar, these panels actually function. Not every aircraft has functioning panels or not, but you can click on buttons and raise your gear. You can manipulate your throttle with your mouse. You can do all sorts of things. So let's position all this stuff into a nice window where we can see what's going on. We're into 11:13 here. I just jumped to. So we're in the 13 minutes into the flight. And again, I'm going to close some of these, again, trying to get the software to crash. Nothing happening. So let's go change out to the little acrobatic aircraft here. Do the same thing. We're going to reposition it. Come over here. Close the windows, and we're going to rotate around, use the num lock, take num lock off, and then use the control keys on the numpad to change our view here, the spot plane. And you know, I'm jumped over here to the aircraft because I want you to see there's 2 aircraft, one taking off, you'll see there in the red. You see an Airbus actually coming in over here. this software is actually tracking other three-dimensional objects that are created there. Now, they're not other people in this particular case. They could be if you're but this is a generated aircraft generated by them. So we're flying over, we're watching the Airbus land underneath us. Of course, the FFA would ground us for life if we did this. But you'll notice that it's tracking all this different stuff. It's doing waves. It's doing neighborhoods. I'm doing rolls. Everything seems to be updating just fine and running just fine. Haven't been able to get it to crash so far. So we'll play around with this for a while. And it's 11:17 into the flight now. And I'm going back to the aircraft itself, the Airbus again, trying to do the same thing. And trying to do the same kind of things. Again, we're at lock spot still. We're just a little bit further out. We'll rotate that back around. Get back in the exact same position we were before. Now what I did was I set this all up, and you'll see here that I opened up gauges and I set this up to cruise. Now I didn't put it on autopilot, but I did level it off at a certain altitude. I thought I had enough, but later on you'll see that we're a little low right now. This is at 11:35 into the flight. We're 35 minutes in. While I was gone, it crashed. Not the program, but the aircraft crashed into the mountains. And what ensued while I was gone was a complete hour of the aircraft crashing into trees and mountains and things. And that's because I have crash detection turned off. So it just simply tries to continue. When it crashes, it bounces, does things, and it tries to continue to fly. But you'll hear actual things happening. You'll hear it impacting. You'll see the aircraft react to hear that? You hear it reacting to different things, trying to maintain flight. So again, this did this for a long time. As a matter of fact, if you watch the time indicator at the bottom, it's 11:36 right now. I'm going to go ahead and jump to later on in flight 11:36, 12:42. So that's an hour and 6 minutes of crashing, and we're an hour and 42 minutes into the 2 hours. Hour and 42 minutes into the flight. And look, all the little screens are updating every time it crashes as well. This system is just recovering over and over and over again. Now I've also pressed now the Y key to engage the slew mode, which means I can position the aircraft manually, horizontally, or vertically just by moving my keys around to get it out of the forest and everything, to get it back into a regular flight. Again, without the aircraft or the program, the aircraft crashes without the program crashing. So here we are flying again. Everything's back to normal. The aircraft is going. So we're going to go ahead and continue to do that, but we're also going to switch out to other aircraft to try to do the same thing we did before. Again, this is an hour and 40 some minutes into the flight. I'm going to go ahead and interact with the environment here. We're going to change out different aircraft. This time let's choose the F-18. And again, doesn't have the same panel, so the windows are just the front view. But you'll see here how it's operating just fine. So let's go ahead and reconfigure this just like we did with the other stuff. Let's close some windows down and do that. And let's go to, oops, I did these undock window. Let me go ahead and close it that way. And let's go here. And as you can see, the lights flashing off of the aircraft are working. The rendering is perfect. The clouds, the simulation, everything is working just fine for the F-18. Now again, this is one of the standard aircraft. If you have purchased aircraft, there's no guarantees on any of them. You just have to play around with them and test them. And a lot of the sites that have aircraft, they have updated, but some have not. Have not updated it for Windows 8. So it just depends upon how, just like a printer manufacturer wants to update his drivers for his printers. It really depends upon the company that you bought it from and how much money they want to spend doing that. They may feel that Flight Simulator X is not their future. They're developing for other emulators. So in the meantime, here we are here again. Let's go ahead and select another aircraft. And let's select a helicopter this time. And there we are. And let's look around a little bit. I'm not going to do any fancy maneuvers. but we're going to move around the aircraft here, and you can see that Flight Simulator handles it perfectly just as well. Again, the quality of the actual aircraft and how much the compatibility is with the regular Windows that it was written for determines its compatibility for Windows 8. So let's choose something else here as well. So let's go with the DC-3, an older aircraft. It doesn't mean that because it's older type of aircraft doesn't mean it's going to be any more compatible. But let's just click around. 737, looking good here. Let's go over here and scroll down here. Look for some other aircraft as well. And I'm just trying to again text it here. I don't have my SR-71 set up. Here's a glider. By the way, if you've never been in a glider, go get one of those rent one for, let they take you up for a minute or two. Well worth the experience. It's a really nice experience. There we are, the standard old Cessna. It runs fine as well. And let's go here and load up another jet. No problem. Again, all this swapping in and out were just ways to see. By the way, you can turn on the variations down at the bottom, and you see all these different color schemes, so you can choose what you want to use. One of my favorites, P-51. There we are. We'll go ahead and play around with a couple of different variations of this. We'll move this around a little bit, but again, very nice aircraft simulation. Let's go ahead and grab a different version of it, just to show you that all the versions work fine. They're just color schemes, paint schemes. They may have different panels as well, but we can go ahead and select anything you want as far as the aircraft and everything goes. So with that, let me turn off. Let's turn off variations, go back to the standard. Well, the same thing. Let's go fly the P-51 here. Cannot get this program to crash doing all this stuff. You can see how stable it is. Again, now what I suggest you do is create a default. Once you choose an aircraft in the airport, because you're going to load from the start, you might as well go ahead and grab an airport, grab an aircraft. That's going to be your favorite flight. You can have 2 or 3 of them. You can have 10 of them saved, 100 of them saved. But set it all up so that you don't have to do all these machinations in order to do it. So what I'm doing here is I'm setting up my default flight. So if I go into here, and here we are, and now I want to go over here to flights and say save, and let me go ahead. Now I already have it saved down below, you see it here, so I'm going to just overwrite it. So it's my P-51 Hawaii. Click on the box that says oops, I forgot, let me go click on that box there and say make that my default flight. There you see, that's what it will load automatically. Again, the welcome screen will not come up. The FSX will come up, but the initial configuration, you go right to this flight. So now I've ended it. I've stopped that flight at 12:49. Okay, I tried to start it, but it's still running. So that was an hour and 49 minutes of flying, running Flight Simulator without a crash. So here I am loading it up again, and it automatically loads the default flight. There I am in Hawaii, ready to play Flight Simulator. So with that, I'm going to go here now. We're going to talk again about how to configure this. Now, again, if we go here and it comes up with your flight simulator acceleration, you need to change the target frame rate. Just like I said below, free up computer resources. That's the biggest cause of the initial crash, and most people have had help just doing that. But then I found out these other tweaks. The next thing is that I turn off opening screen. Don't forget, after you click it, uncheck it, and say, okay, you close Flight Simulator to save it, and then come back up again. That's important as well, so that it brings up right into your default flight. Thirdly, I did this. Over in the scenery, I just maxed out everything, gave everything as much as resources, and that seemed to help. I still have more testing to do here, but I just maxed it out because, quite frankly, modern cards can handle most of this stuff. So I just went ahead and just maxed everything out and ran that. And that seemed to help the stability as well, because that's what you see there is what I just ran my demo on. So I hope you can go ahead and use these tips to configure Flight Simulator for you, and hope you get hours and hours of enjoyment out of it, just like I have. It's a great program, even as old as it is. Hey, for more great tips from Old Guy Geek, don't forget to subscribe. Share it with your friends on Facebook or Twitter. Take a look at our playlist, Windows 8 playlist, Windows Phone 8 playlist, and a general how-to, and of course our latest feature video. And thanks for watching.